Morning, everyone. We're here with another exciting interview. This time it's on handwriting, which I really love. There's so much to handwriting. And we got one of the real experts on this. She's had her own institute for decades, right?
Right.
And her name is Vimala.
It's Vimala, just like Pam, but Vimala.
Okay, Vimala Rogers. Okay, I always have problems with that. So she's going to give you some of her a short bio, and then we're going to go into some of her massive research on the colors of the different letters, of the brain research, all kinds of stuff. So Vimala, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me here. And as far as bio goes, I could go back to when I was 2 years old because
I don't want to go that far.
No, I'm just saying about the letters, because my mother would put a note in the milk, empty milk bottle in the morning for the milkman to come and give her what was on the list. And now and again, she'd yell at the milkman. She would, "You didn't bring it, and I left this." And he said, "No, I didn't see a note." One morning, she was putting a note out there with quite a few wishes on things she wants. And she was watching out to make sure she caught the milkman when he coming by. And she saw me at the age of 2, grabbed the note and ran in the house. And she said, "My God, she can't read." And she followed me down the hall and she found me in my bedroom, putting this piece of paper that she had left for the milkman in a shoebox. And she said, "What are you doing?" And as I turned around, the shoebox fell with envelopes that had writing on it. And she said, "Why didn't you?" Anyway, so I promised her I'd never take the note out of the milk bottle anymore. And she promised she'd save every envelope that came to me with handwriting on it. So I got
so there you're really programmed early into your future.
But everybody comes in with a particular something that fascinates them. With me, it happened to be the alphabet, but other people, look at feng shui, look at all these different technologies. They don't just all of a sudden spring out of the blue. Part of that was everybody born is different from every other person. And that's why I look at people and say, "Well, I have the same name as so-and-so." I say, "But you're not the same person."
Exactly. So now you have an institute, right?
I do. I have taught in it since 1969, 70, around there.
Wow.
And now I've trained enough teachers to go out and do the training. But I love people to examine, the letters are my life. And I have, in fact, one of my graduate students who's trained with me for, 16 years. He's teaching in Beijing, China.
Wow.
He's learning Mandarin and they're learning the Vimala alphabet. and they love him. But the alphabet is a spiritual technology. It's not just, little random shapes put together in life, because I don't believe anything. And I tell people when I start any program, and I'll say it today, don't believe anything I say about the letters. Belief can change in a blink. If you want to find out the truth of what I'm saying, pick up your pen and start writing a particular letter again and again. It takes 40 days for the brain patterns to shift, the neurological patterns. And in 1973, Jerry Konofsky from Poland was a scientist, and just brilliant. He said, he's the one who, what name did he call? He called it, I think he's the one that called it, he gave it Nepology. So many scientists did, and he called it, here is his name. I put all these notes in. Cortical remapping, because the brain patterns change when you do certain things, when you think certain things, when you write a certain way. And and that was 1973, Jerry Konofsky, because I believe nothing. I have to research everything. And that's why every letter in the alphabet I see it as a sacred part of who we are, not just out there randomly in the world. And when you write a letter, you're accessing that part of who you are. It's very exciting.
Do you find a difference, like how we write left to right, and then top to bottom, and then the other cultures that write the opposite, and we're left to right, they go right to left, and then from the bottom up. Do you find a different, that they think differently, or that's a different?
Well, one of my graduate students who's now in China, he's learning Mandarin. And of course, when the kids looked at the Vimala alphabet, they didn't know what they were looking at. And then he's learning Mandarin. So they're learning how to do left to right, and they're, instead of going up and down and right to left. But I've never studied any of those. I've studied Arabic, I've studied some, but I've never studied any that go up. And also people who write naturally from right to left and left to right. I don't know. It's a brain pattern that I haven't studied.
Yeah, I always thought of like, because the West, it's from the past to the future. And it's kind of like you're looking, they're going from the future to the past, though,
Right.
like getting into all of that. But anyhow.
Well, our Roman alphabet, what they call it then, started in, it was only out, the Romans just decided to put these letters together and they put them in random shape. The funny thing that I find when I speak about people, especially when their name begins with a J, oh, you're a newcomer. I'm a what? I said there were 25 letters until 1859 when someone said, they used to drop the I into the lower zone because they didn't have a J. And they said, well, we'll just make that into another letter. So all of a sudden they decided, let's make it into a letter. So the J became part of it became the 26th letter in our English alphabet.
Wow.
Yeah, because all along we had 18 letters to start with, they grew along, but there's never a J. And the J is the letter of, when I speak to groups of men, I call it insight. When I speak to groups of women, I call it intuition. I'm saying the same thing. If I speak to men and call it intuition, they go, oh, la la land, and I say, oh no, insights.
Now, is J the middle of the 26 or no?
No, I teach the letters in a different order.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, but the alphabet is a fascinating science, and it's a spiritual science. It's not just a group of letters put together. Each letter has many aspects to it. As I say, like making a new friend. When you have a new friend, you say, oh, she has blonde hair. Oh, she's 5'4". Oh, she wears red. It's all the different person, or she has a wonderful smile. And that's when you get to know a letter, as I have gotten to know them from my time I was little. Each letter has a personality. And when I learned that, I realized, oh, everyone that has a personality lives in a family. Everything on planet Earth, whether it's a stone or a tree, it lives in a family. And then I began to discover the families of the letters. And it's actually, when you trace the A all the way down to the Z or the Z, it's a progression of how we mature as human beings. And that's what's starting with the A, brand new. And at the end, and funny, when I had a rabbi as a student years ago, and we were talking about the letter Z, and it's, this is 80, and I said, it's Zadie, we call it Zadie, and it's the grandfather letter, because every letter has an inner voice. And the inner voice of the Z is, oh, there are no shoulds in my life. I am at peace. And he said, oh, the Zadie is grandfather in Hebrew. I didn't know that. So God has so much fun putting these letters together in ways. And for you to be a C person, dealing with feminine energy, and it's just, and the inner voice is, I give up the need to understand. I trust the feminine to have the answers.
It was so interesting when we were talking, because you were recommended to me by one of your past students who just loved your classes, Donna Lee Powers. And I had taken her class at one of the Dowsing conferences, and she talked about the hook on the C. It'll hook you to your mother, right? And so I was writing my C's like this with this huge hook. And I went, oh my God. So then little by little, it got smaller. So I still am so conscious of my little hook on that C.
Beautiful. And every letter has a very deep meaning to it, but that C. And I have talked to groups that like a Seroptimus or a group like that. And I'll say, the one letter you all want to master really is the letter C. And I wrote on the board, and they said, oh, anybody can do that. So I come up and draw one. So a little hook at the top. No. And then one of the girls had brought her daughter with him, about 9 years old. And she said, oh, it's like a bagel sliced in half with no crumbs. I said, you got it. And it just represents an attitude we have had that we don't want, that's negative, about a female authority figure. It could be your mother, grandmother, neighbor, anybody. But when you clean that up, and that's what it does, that's what Ganoski was talking about. When you change the way you shape a letter, you change the way the brain pattern, it takes 40 days for the brain patterns physically to shift. And it does. And all of a sudden you're friendly to someone you weren't friendly to before, because all of a sudden you weren't judging her. And when we realize that when you really absorb the alphabet, there's not a judgment anywhere. And that's why the letter Z, the very last letter, says, oh, no shoulds in my life. I'm at peace.
So when you're writing, then is it better to be writing the letters plainly without embellishments?
I have an alphabet. In fact, I can hold it up. It's very, very simple. And the thing is, when I was learning in school, I didn't like the letters and I made them my own way and I got in trouble. But in fourth grade, I had a teacher who said, "Oh, I like that G. Oh, your T is really cool with that line on time." And she just went, and she gave me permission. She did not flunk me as the other teachers would because I didn't write the old Palmer system. And she said, "Oh, that A is really dramatic." And because the A we know is this big round one, that big round one is the ego. Oh, look at me, you know. But I was playing with it. And so literally her name was Gloria Guarini, 2 G's, if you will. And she gave me permission, literally, by honoring what I was doing, to say that what I was doing is okay, because she was always kind and open and loving. "Oh, I like your writing." So I thought, well, I can do it in fourth grade. Maybe if I got in a lot of trouble, but that's okay. But each letter has its own, like every person, like you and I, we're 2 human beings, we're both feminine, but we each have our own personality and the own things we like, dislike, the colors we wear, everything. It's just.
So what's the V for Vimala?
Oh, the V is the 10th letter. Funny you to mention that because today is the 10th day of the month.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the V is a letter. I've given every letter an inner voice because that way people understand it better. And the inner voice of the V is, "My choices are always an echo of the God within." And like the C has the one, "I give up the need to understand." Usually C, women have to understand everything and be smart and all, which is nothing wrong with that. But I give up the need to understand. I trust the feminine aspect of God completely. So there's a part of that. And also, it's just, each letter is awesome. And then the A, you have last names don't count as much because they change a lot. But the A is the most sacred letter in all alphabets I've studied. And if people, anyone who's Jewish or any rabbi, please, you must read a little book. It's 32 pages long, I think. And it's called The Creation of the Alphabet by Ben Shaw. And
who's the author?
His first name is Ben, B-E-N, as in Benjamin. And Shaw, S-H-A-H. Shaw, Ben Shaw, The Creation of the Alphabet. And usually when we read a book, we kind of start in the middle to see if we're going to like it. Not with this one. Start on page 1 and go all the way to the end. And you will love this book.
Good.
But it's about the Hebrew alphabet, and it's based on the Pentateuch. It's based on the Kabbalah, and it's adorable. I mean, it's really, it's very sweet. And you just read it and you'll find out. But always start on
Do you look at the vowels like as the soul is sacred? Like, except, when they would be writing in the old time, they wouldn't put the vowel in the word, But
I wasn't part of that thing because the owls, every letter has its own sacred manifestation. And
okay.
But there are many, many traditions about different alphabets. Oh my goodness sakes. And I've read many of them and I've accepted, but the thing is, I don't believe anything I read. I have to prove it.
Right.
And that's why I became a vegetarian, years ago. I think I've been eating meat, and look at this. And again, go back to the Pentateuch in the Bible. It says, I give you all the plants of the earth and the trees that bear fruit to be your food, period. And then when I just reread that as, oh gosh, how old was I? I was about 1969, I think. And I thought, wow. So, and Louise Hay was one of my, she is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was one of my handwriting students, very good student, a lot of fun. And she said, well, if we're not supposed to eat meat, what do we do? I said, well, I have a hand-typed cookbook this thick with all the recipes my kids and I have put together that are vegetarian. She said, may I see the book? I said, oh, Louise, I said, it's all splattered and everything. She said, I want to see the book. So I gave it to her, and with 2 H's, Hay House. I mean, how could I not? And she said, all right, of all these pages, I want you to create a book of 101 recipes, vegetarian, but we can't call it vegan because the word is too strange. It was 1999, I think. We'll call it vegetarian. I said, okay. So we did vegetarian meals for people on the go. And it has 40 colored, it came out years ago, 40 colored illustrations, 101, we actually made 102 recipes because this is one I couldn't help not putting in, but, and she was fun. But the reason I really wanted her to do it, not only because of her writing, but she had a company which started with 2 H's, Hay House. And I figured with H's, that's got to be a reputable company. Just how my mind works, with letters. But and yeah, and she was a wonderful student. And then she published the book, and people loved it. But it's also that's why I research everything. I research the diet, and I realize what's possible when you don't eat meat products or dairy. My kids never had a glass of milk. Can you believe that? The teachers would say, "Oh, we'll give you a nickel a day, for their." I said, "We don't drink it," and I lied, and I said they're allergic to it.
I've been vegetarian for 50 years, so there we go.
Oh, you love my book, but the book, as I said, many people say it's probably too complicated and they have to learn things. I said, no, just you want to do khichdi, turn to page such and such. You want to do this? Good. I said, it's all very basic, and it's done very well. But it also came to the time when I need to write a book on the letters. But and the letters are what fascinate me more than anything in the world. And I've grown up with them, and I've been made fun of with the way I wrote until all of a sudden I said, I don't want you to believe anything I tell you about this change. When I would work with a person as a client, I would ask one question before we work together. I say, what is it that's missing in your life that if it were present would fill you with joy and satisfaction? Say, oh, in fact, I mentioned that in my psychology class at Stanford, and the professor said, no. I said, okay, let me see your handwriting. So I said, how much? I said, no, give me a whole page. So he wrote a whole page. I don't care what you write about. I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to look at the letter patterns. And I looked at it and I laughed and I said, if that's what you want in life, you'll never make it with that kind of writing. You'll have too many blocks in the way. So he said, well, what do I need to do? I said, if you want to find out if this is true, you have to experience it. Truth lives in experience. So I gave him 4 letter changes. I said, you must use unlined paper, landscape direction, and write every day for 40 days. I want you to write 3 lines of each letter and then fill the other side of the page writing about anything, but include those letters. And I'd see him at his desk going like this every day. And on about page 35, maybe 36, he said, well, this might be the reason I'm changing my handwriting, because I just got what I've been wanting for my whole life.
Wow.
And that's what you asked me. I said, well, why do you think it would not be? He said, well, it could have happened anyway. I said, Jeff, get a piece of paper and fill it with the writing the way you're used to and see what happens. And he started, he said, okay, you win. I'm keeping up my handwriting changes. Because the way we write, it's the programming of the brain is what it is. And then later on, I read a book called The Hand by Dr. Frank Wilson, how the hand and the mind work together. Then everything I had suspected all these years was validated. And it's just fascinating because the hand and the brain, your hand has nothing to do with moving the pen. You hold it, but the subconscious mind that says, this is who you are and how you think, that's what moves the pen. And it's a fabulous.
Do you find a difference between left and right-handed people?
No, I don't. Okay. Except I'm right-handed and I've done my best to write left-handed. I don't do it really. There's something not working in my brain right. And I've had people who are left-handed try to write, and they can do it both ways. But my mind doesn't work that way. But each letter has what I call aspects, as I mentioned. Oh, I have a new friend named Joanne. She has dark hair, blue eyes. She smiles. It's a personality. And every letter has a personality. And every letter has, just like we say, my new friend Joanne is friendly. Okay, that would be a certain letter. But every letter has a main aspect to it. And it's and through the years, as I began writing them, and I had a history in psychology and philosophy and other qualities and other personalities, that I would say, oh, that's the T. I'll be darned. And the T is very important for anybody. And my student, who is now teaching in Beijing, wrote 16 years. He wrote his T a certain way, and his vision came true. From California, the foothills in California. He said, I'm going to teach in China. I beg your pardon. I mean, but when you have a dream, a vision, everybody ever born can see the world in a little different way, however they see it. And it's funny because I teach the letters, but they said, well, what? And also I have on my wall probably something not many people do. The ampersand, which used to be the 27th letter, but they just took it out because it means and I could see if I can get my screen over there to take a picture of it. I don't know.
There it is.
There it is. There's my ampersand. Yeah. And one of my students sent that to me. Of course, the hex had up above it, but And every letter is also mathematically, geometrically inclined, but I won't go into that today.
But the ampersand used to be a letter.
It used to be the ampersand. That was the 27th letter, and whenever they just decided, yeah, we're not going to do it anymore. So they stopped with 25, and then last with 1869 or whatever, they got 26 with the J, because they had an I and they dropped it into the lower zone. They would never use it as an official letter. And it's just the history of every letter is fascinating.
Well, you said you were going to go through like and review them, like give us some of the letters today. Was that it?
Why don't, if you want me to, sure. But what I learned as I think I'm pretty sure I mentioned earlier, the one thing I learned as like when you meet friends, new people, they all live in a family. Everything in the whole world, whether it's a stone or a light or a piece of grass, they all live in a family. So do the letters. And that's
okay. That's what you were showing me. Okay.
This is what I'm showing. And we come into it's our evolution as human beings. We come in, we can't talk. The O is speaking, the D is being sensitive, speaking, the G is being grateful, the Q is serving other people, and the P is the one letter I've given people that have more changes than any other letter I've given them, because if you're going to take on a change, you must live it. And anyone watching this show, if you want a major change in your life, I suggest, and I'll hold up a regular large letter P for you, that you write it every day, write 3 lines of it, upper and lowercase, and then live it. And writing is fine, it's all pretty and all that. That's not what it's all about. What it's about is honoring it, getting it in your brain, and then living it. If you don't live the letter, why write it? You know what?
So now, but do you have a special way of making these letters, or it's however the person makes it?
No, look what I just happened to find. No, I have created the shape of the letters because I know what every curve and everything means. And the letter P is the one that if anybody watching wants a huge change in their life, I'll give you the inner voice in a minute, but this is the P.
Oh.
And the first stroke, any stroke that goes down is called an I am stroke. You do the I am, no loop in the stem, and then finish it with this. This letter, writing it and living it, has changed more lives than any other handwriting change I've given. And what the inner voice is, and you have to live it, is I interact with everyone as though they love me, not as though I like them. And I interact with everyone as though they love me, whether it's someone who doesn't like you, someone who gossips about you, someone who knocks over the garbage can, who dogs bark. Interact with everyone with a smile and a gracious face, and interact with everyone as though they love you, and see what happens to your life. I say give you a week. If you do that every single day with every person you meet, your life will begin to change. Keep writing your piece. That P is just an amazing, amazing letter.
So you said like 3 rows of capital and 3 rows of lowercase. What was it?
I do upper lower just like this.
Oh, upper lower. I see. Okay, like that.
And remember, landscape direction of the paper, the long way, and no lines ever, ever, ever. Because when you're writing the portrait direction and you use lines, it's a way of saying, well, I don't have to give up this. But no lines, landscape directions it's free form for me, for who I am. I'm doing things my way because I want to shift something I have. And attitudes shift with the P, and it's just different with everybody. But by living that letter, and I don't care who you meet, somebody grumpy on the bus, or somebody wants to sell you a car and they're kind of annoying, just interact with that person as though they really, really respect you, like you, or love you, whatever.
So I remember from, because I took at the Hypnovation Institute out in the Valley, they had like classes. So we all had to take classes in handwriting. And so when we always use blank paper, but I didn't know if you have so they would have, if you write up, you're going into the future. If you write down, you're going to the past. Do you have it? Do you go?
No, that's not the future is when you are going 10 to the right. When you go downward, it's you're not doing what you're supposed to.
Oh, okay.
You're holding back. But there's a whole different way of looking at letter forms and how they're written when they're not, when they're going to the past.
Well,
But
that would be interesting when you're doing your P's if they're starting to go down, right?
yeah, if you do a line of P's and go down, watch out. You're just pretending you want, but just straight across or a little bit up is fine.
Mhm.
And that's why, again, I'm going back to the letter T, but the letter T is just a straight line down and then crossing at the top in a bit of a direction. See if I can find one here. Oh, there's the H. I'm not surprised. But the T is a letter of the visionary. And that's why I encourage everyone. I don't care who tells you what about writing. Cross all your T's on top and do not put a loop in that stem going down. It's an I am stroke.
Ah.
And the I am, just like the T has one that goes down. And with the T, do not ever put a loop in that lowercase stem. Many people just put a big loop. I said, that holds you back. So the way, and as I say, I have a whole alphabet. And not just because I want people to believe it, I've experienced every one of these letters.
Mhm.
Oh man, that doesn't work. But the P, I thought it was because I had to love everybody. It didn't work. It just was like an impossibility. But when I pretend they love me, or they like me, it just changes your whole something. Because the one thing we really need to do is love ourselves first. And if we can't do that, how can we express that in other people?
So when you were talking about the guy who's in Beijing now, and you said he was crossing the T on the top, that's what you meant.
Oh yeah, he was always.
Mhm.
And if anybody has a first name that begins with a T, for heaven's sakes, that's how you want to do
And
it.
you slant it slightly.
Yeah. And then we get into the ligatures, the TH. I actually teach that as a 27th letter because it's such a gentle, loving letter.
What is that?
Connecting the THT to the H. I don't know if I wrote one. I can write one for you. Because the one thing most of us don't do, we don't listen. We always want to talk to someone and tell them how. And the
Mhm.
TH says, the gentle voice says, I am a gentle listener. Thank you.
Mm.
So when you write the THs and you're going to be saying Republicans and Democrats, sit there and close your mouth and open your mind.
Mhm.
But just write your lines of THs. I am a gentle listener. Wouldn't it be awesome if politicians did that? Or people
Exactly.
who don't agree about this or that or the other. And that's, I give THs to a lot of people. I said, just write it every day, 3 lines every day for the rest of your life.
Now, are you doing a capital T and a small lowercase h?
Let me write one for you. Hang on. Let me get a piece of paper here. It's just a beautiful shape and it's easy to do. It's not complicated.
This is knowledge everyone needs.
I know, and I didn't realize I'd be doing a ligature, but I'm going to do it because of all the letter. I mean, it just really. Where's a big fat pen? Here's one. TH. And this is the uppercase. And you can also use it as a lowercase. But the
Oh,
curve, anytime you curve a stroke here, it's self-discipline. TH, I'm a gentle listener. And we have quite a few words in English that have the TH in the middle or begin with it.
mhm.
And we all, anyway. We think we listen, but we usually don't.
Mhm.
We're listening so we can prepare to put our statement forward. And that's why in 1980 something rather, in Palo Alto, I had a lot of these very bright thinkers. And we came to the letter E. And I said, oh, we're all going to practice this one. I said, why? I said, because what it states is, I may be wrong. You know any politicians? Anyway, everybody laughed and had a good time because the rest of it is, I may be wrong. Explain your viewpoint more clearly so I can understand. But the voice is, I may be wrong. So they say, oh, nobody thinks they're wrong. So we all, of all places in the world, Palo Alto, we had a bumper sticker made. And all it said was, I may be wrong. And everybody had in their fancy cars and their plane cars and their motorcycle. And people, everyone in the class said, somebody stopped me and said, what does that mean?
Mhm.
They said, oh, I may be wrong. Sometimes I'm not right. And they said, no, really, what does it really mean? Nobody really got what they meant when they said, I may be wrong. And that's if we just, and then we go into the TH ligature. Oh, I'm a gentle listener. You know, we play with it. And the word THE. Oh, I'm a gentle listener. Oh, I may be wrong.
It encapsulates the whole thing.
The letters play together. They really do. And that's why
How do you add your E to that TH? That's
you just a TH and then add your, I use the epsilon E. Not very well done when it's in two letters, but I could do the whole letter. And the only E I suggest as a loop is when it's a double one, but this one. This certainly isn't perfect, but it's what we got. Does that show without the?
there.
So put
Up a
epsilon
little
E.
bit there.
Up a little bit.
Perfect. Oh, I see that kind of.
And you can also connect the E to the H.
Okay.
Don't use the teardrop loop with this one. And the teardrop lowercase e, looks
Oh, you
like,
mean that kind of E? Yeah.
but
Oh,
no,
you call that a teardrop? That's an interesting one.
because it looks like one.
Yeah,
Well, I may
exactly.
be wrong. Isn't that funny? That's why. And people ask about, my approach toward God and all this. I says, well, I know when the universe was created and it was a male aspect and said, okay, the universe, I've got it figured out. And little hand was raised and said, what about the flowers? What about the colors? What about the love? Oh, well, that's a feminine aspect. We'll let her have her way. So she comes out in things like letters of the alphabet, flowers, hugs. That's, and so anyway, I'm sure there's a masculine way to do that, but it's the energy, and every letter is either masculine or feminine. So, and what the world would be strange if we had only men and only women. It would be very awkward. But yeah, the alphabet, and let's see, what else was I going to say? All these.
You were going to talk about the colors of the letters.
About the what?
The color, that every letter has a color.
Every letter, but I don't really, the color of the letter V is indigo. And what I do in my class is I give them the PMS, Pantone matching system. When they first see PMS, they go, what? Pantone matching system, because you go out on the internet and you can find indigo one color and another color. But if you have the correct Pantone matching system color, you get the exact one. But it would take way too long to give all the letters for the 26. But if I could give
just
you
a couple, just to give the idea. So is a V masculine or feminine?
What, the V?
Yeah, V.
Oh, the V is masculine.
Mm.
It's very generative. Usually when there's an angle, it's masculine because it's mental.
Oh, okay.
But when they flow, and don't ever put a soft bottom in your V, oh my gosh. Because when you have a V and you soften it, oh, I don't understand. My mother told me this, or the priest told me I'm supposed to believe it. No, that V is very decisive, very clear.
Doesn't it go into a U if you round it off?
It isn't a V if you round it off. It's a U. And the inner voice for the U is really fun. It's the 8th letter, and it says, "Oh, I'm going to live life as a beginner today." In other words, no matter if I know something and somebody starts talking about it, I will be quiet and let them be the one who knows. Just be changing a tire on the car or whatever. But be it, I will live life as a beginner today. In other words, I don't have any answers. And I listen really well. So it just, all the letters, they just dance together.
So then the U would be feminine because it's curved, right?
It's curved, it's feminine, you're right. But, and every letter has its own history, but in different countries. But the TH, and also, why did I create my own alphabet? I never dreamed of doing it until I was a freshman in college. In philosophy, we were taking our logic class. And we were told we were studying syllogisms, 3 parts, all roses are red, this flower is red, therefore it's a rose. I mean, so Sister Rosa Manuela, Holy Names College, said, okay, I want you all to create your own syllogism tonight and bring it back in class tomorrow. And I was, oh, big ho-hum. And then I thought, I need to create my own, but it's not going to be exactly what she asked for. Because what I knew about the letters, I was going to put in this quote syllogism. It's like, each stroke of our handwriting reaffirms a thinking habit. Thinking habit shapes our self-image. And self-image is the lens through which we see life. And the lens through which we see life determines our behavior. If there were an alphabet created with only soul-based qualities, world peace would be a possibility. I handed it in. When she reviewed our paper, she said, I'm not giving you a grade. Come back to my class. I went back in her office. Is this really true or did you make this up? I said, it's absolutely true.
Mhm.
Let me see how you make you don't want to do your E that way. And I said, that's heart energy with this one. When you do it angular, I said, that's your mind. If you want to be, and so we went to talk. She said, you really know this is true, don't you? I said, yes, because I've written all the letters. So she said, I'll give you an A, but I'll tell you what, I want to know who's going to create an alphabet with only spiritually based qualities. And she looked straight at me and said, you're appointed. And that was when I was a freshman, 17 years old.
Wow.
But it's people like that and attitudes like that give you permission to live your dream,
Mhm,
even if
mhm.
it's impossible.
Right.
Never heard of alphabets having any meaning. And she did. And it just, and my fourth grade teacher who also said, oh, your handwriting looks pretty. I like the way you make the G or the what. And so for when we meet someone who has a dream that's really far-fetched, honor it. Say, thank you for sharing that with me. I never thought of it that way. And I mean, I've had a lot of people say that to me, but I know, especially with the A, and the A is, you really must read the book, The Creation of, or The Alphabet of Creation by Ben Shaw. It's about the Hebrew alphabet. It is absolutely, I won't say adorable. It's precious and it's priceless.
Because my last name, ASSA, and in the when I do the numerology, they're both number 1. So is the S similar to the A in your?
No, the A is number 1. And what letter do you want? S?
S.
S as in, well, that's in the middle of your last name. So
Yeah.
the S, the inner voice of the letter S, I write S's every day because it says, my timing is aligned with God's timing, which is perfect. And sometimes I have a project, I think it's done, it's not quite done. Why can't I get this finished? So I start write lines of S.
I'm glad I asked that.
Oh, yes. My timing is aligned with God's timing, which is perfect. Thank you. And I always end with a thank you.
Mhm.
And the S is one letter that people often get the bottom loop looking like a loop in a G, but it isn't. And the S is very simple. None of that, those slashes and other things.
There's so many different ways you can write it. Yeah.
Well, let me see if I have it here in I typed every letter really big so everybody could see it on the show. FRS, okay. Here's the S.
Oh.
And many times this loop will go down below. Don't let it go beneath the baseline. And this letter is a letter of balance. In every areas of your life, if there's something out of balance that isn't working, write lines of the S.
Mhm.
And you can find lots of words that have S's in it, but to start the word with a capital and have it in the middle, it can be any word, but sausage is one I use a lot because I love the G, and I don't want my S loop to go below. But in the S used to have, a slash and a loop and all these negative,
Right.
just like the
And there's
capital G.
those big S's and yeah.
Right, and the capital G used to have a slash at the bottom and the loop at the top. Oh my goodness sakes.
Mhm.
It's a letter of gratitude. Be grateful for everything. And the inner voice of the G is very simple.
Do you have a picture of a G?
I'm just looking for it. AODG.
Okay.
Let me see. AODGQ. Here's this letter. It just feels certain letters have different energy. And when you make the lowercase, do not close it at the top. The G stays like this. I mean, and with the G down here, don't touch those two together. And this one, keep this open and keep that open at the top. Now, and the G is a letter, well, the inner voice is.
The G is so sacred to the Masons, they don't know it's God, it's geometry. So it's interesting the way you make it. Yeah.
But the G says, I embrace everything and everyone in my life as a gift, no exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Everything and everyone as a gift, no exceptions.
So when we look at someone, you said their first name is more important because the last one keeps changing. So like when a person comes in and they're writing that first name, like I was doing my little hooks and stuff, that's how they can change their energy, right?
The shift, it's the initial of your first name is what you're in life to do and be and share and make the world a happier place. The reason the last name doesn't count, people get married, they have a maiden name, or they get divorced and have a new name. So it would change a lot. But the initial of your first name, that after the age of 35, that's the name you want to be called. Some people, well, my name is Joanne and people call me something else, or my name is Mary and they call me Mary Ann. Take the initial of your first name.
Okay.
And that is the initial, the letter, the part, the way you came in, an attitude you come in to live, and through your example, show other people. Because the letter W is, I both are soft at the bottom. And
Oh, you do yours soft at the, like it's a W.
absolutely. And thank you. You got,
Manly P. Hall had said it was the sixth vowel, the W.
I know. I
They had
read,
A, E, I, O, U, sometimes Y and W. Yeah. Oh,
And I
seventh
didn't-
one.
yeah, we all have our different views of the letters and their purpose. And but the U, many people, especially down at NASA, down in Palo Alto, were, how can I just pretend I don't know? And I send out the example to my students of a fellow that he's driving to work one day and I had a CD and he was listening to that about, on the you just pretend that you don't know the answer to anything. Even if you know the answer, just pretend you don't and be sincere. Sincere is the quality. So he went into a gas station and he saw this guy in a pickup truck, and he's ready to, he just fixed his car, was ready to go. Could you help me? He said, can I help you do what? I don't know how to change a tire. I think my tire, could you look at my tire, please? And this guy in the pickup came over and said, oh, no, it's fine. What you need to do is to change the front with the back and the back with the front, and you'll be fine. He said, really? I had no idea. He said, yeah, and you might get some gas in the tank too. You're almost out. So he said, thank you. And he went over to use his card in the gas, whatever, the charge card for the gas, and it didn't work. So he went to the owner of the station and said, I need some gas in my car, but I don't know how to, my car doesn't work. He said, well, and the owner of the station called his 12-year-old over and said, Jaya, would you please show this gentleman how to get the car to work? So he went over and he put it in, it worked, and he said, you have to tell what kind of gas you want and blah, blah, blah. And the boy knew all the answers, and the guy knew, but he acted like he didn't know.
Right.
And he said, oh, I finally got gas. Thank you very much. You really helped me, Jay. Thank you. And as the kid's running back to the main, where his dad was, he said, if you need any more answers, come and get me. I mean, it was, it's so cute, but when we can let someone who knows, and we know the same thing, to let them know. And what this fellow said, and he said, I was driving off and it made me feel that all of a sudden the dignity of who he was showing. And I realize now, he said, I'm not giving you my name, but I'm a space engineer at NASA.
Wow.
And he said, I've changed tires, all that, but I wanted to give him the sense of dignity of showing me how. And he left there 2 inches taller and with a big smile on his face. He said, that's what we need to do for the world. When we know something, they know, let them speak it, let them show it, and give them a sense of dignity. That's what the Q is all about. The letter Q says, I gift everyone with a sense of joy and dignity. So it's how we treat other people and how we act ourselves. So I don't know I wasn't going to go into these letters. I'm so glad I get to though. But because I designed in every letter in my alphabet has a quality in it that emphasizes our soul energy. And as I say, I call it now the God within after the Kabir story, because we all have that. We all have the same source wherever we came from. I don't know what you believe about it.
Right.
We call it God, we call it Jesus, we call it Buddha, but every one of them is positive and looks at the soul energy, not at the ego. So I don't care what you call God. She doesn't care. He doesn't care. It's how we live. And that's each of my letters of the going from A to Z. When you write each of that letters, you are living a spiritually based life. And that's what Einstein said. I put it down here to quote him so I wouldn't get him wrong. Someone asked Einstein, I was talking about science, and Einstein once said, science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. Now, I use the word spirituality because religion requires belief, but spirituality is how you live. So Einstein also said, The most beautiful and most profound emotion we can experience is the sensation of the mystical. It is the sower of all true science.
Mhm.
So it just, the alphabet, it's a spiritual technology because the way you inscribe each letter indicates, how you're living. It isn't just, and a lot of the students say, oh, people say it looks so nice. I said, I don't care. How are you living your L, your M, your Q? I don't like that R at all. And it's, so when we use my alphabet to write every day, and I have some students that are just amazing. Before they even came to me as students, they had seen my alphabet, and they practiced it for years. They're writing. I said, your writing's lovely, but how do you live this letter? How do you live the T? What about the R? Your name starts with an L. And they said, well, I don't know the inner voice. The inner voice of the L is very beautiful. It's, my life is an ongoing conversation with my soul. That's the L.
Mhm.
And she smiled and said, oh, okay.
So do you leave your L linear or do you make it more feminine?
No, the L is, hang on, let me find, I have all these letters. I typed them all up on a big sheet, each their own sheet. L-E-I-J, F-R-Q. Where are we? L-E-I-J. Okay, should be right here. And there's the, okay, I have the teardrop easier too. So where's the L? Hang on. And the L, and we were taught to put a loop in the top of the L. Don't do that.
Right.
Yeah. But just like this, and don't let a name like the name Laura, don't put the letter A-U-R inside that bottom line there. Let it extend off. Give the letter the energy of being an individual.
Do you do that with all your initials? I mean, for the first letter, you write the rest of the name out from it?
Out from the end of it, right, from here
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because it wants to stand on its own. And that also, we haven't even done the A yet, but the A, you must read the book by The Alphabet of Creation. Each of the letters is competing to be the, anyway, never mind, read it and find out. It's delightful. Jewish humor, there's nothing like Jewish humor, I tell you. And it's so funny that this is the A.
Ah,
And the only
that's a beautiful A.
Yeah. And you slide up here, and then an I am stroke down, then you go back, and this loop occurs in the F, lowercase q, the H, and the A. And this tie stroke in the middle says, nothing will stop me. So when you have a dream like the H, right there with the H, right smack in the middle, lowercase f and q have that side, that tie, it's called a tie stroke, but it makes, every stroke makes a statement. And that tie stroke states, nothing can stop me. And that's why it's the H. In fact, we've talked about it. We haven't even given you the inner voice of the H, have I?
No.
So the inner voice of the letter H is, I live my life with the zeal of an evangelist and the wide-eyed innocence of a child. That's the H. And it has the two I am strokes in that. Nothing will stop me.
So it has that same thing as the,
right. Nothing will stop me. And it's I had no idea where we were going with this conversation. This is so much fun.
Well, that's why they're so much fun. They just go all over the place.
Right. Well, about the Bhagavad Gita. Well, also, if people want to really start writing and they really determine, the most auspicious time of day to write is between 3:45 and 6 a.m. It's called the Brahma Muhurta in India, and it's called the time of God in other spiritual teachings. And I do it every day. And people say, oh, that's so early. I said, just create the habit. When we create any kind of a habit, it really gets a hold of us, and that we couldn't think not doing it otherwise. But I say, but some people between 4 and 6, it's fine. But before 6 in the morning, very important. That's and you will, by doing that, you will feel an energy. It's very clear, very clean. There's no ideas buzzing around, and just do it and find out on your own. I've been doing it for years. And it's called the Brahma Muhurta, the time of God. And that's the best time to practice your writing, especially if you're really wanting to bring a quality into your life. Practice that letter. And the H is awesome. And then I could go into the ST. ST was initially the ligature, but the ST says, My life is a radiant expression of my unquenchable spirit. So I have people just write the ST, okay? Because we say, well, I don't know what, I said, just write the H and it'll let you know. So all these letters dance together and the ligatures, and they allow us to be who we really are and stop pretending that we're not that person. Everyone has a dream. Everyone has a vision. Oh, if only, if only, if only. Practice your letter Z, no shoulds. No shoulds in my life.
So the K you make, let's see.
The K has no loops.
I was trying to like envision how you would do your K.
I'm trying to picture it here on my list. I see a W.
No loops on the K. Okay.
And the K is very simple. It's just, it's an IM stroke with a V across the right.
Oh, okay.
Here it is right here. And
so that's a masculine one then.
yeah, and also it is. And no loops anywhere. It's an IM stroke, which is very powerful. It states who you are. I am. And the sideways V, spiritually based at all times. And I say, this is the letter of the revolutionary. So the letter of the revolutionary, the rebel. It's the letter of the rebel. People say, well, who do you know in history that had a K? I said, Gandhi. They said, no, his name starts with an M. No, I said, Mohandas was his title. Karamchand was the initial of his first name was Karamchand.
Really? Not the G?
Yeah, and Elia. It's right after the T, TKBCXE, but the K, you have a vision, you really, it's going to upset people's apple cart, but it's going to make the world a happier place. K, sideways V, very powerful. And the Indians were having to, up in the north of India, were having to pay for the salt in the water when they took it out of the ocean because English said, that's our ocean. Karamchand said, no. So we had the people refuse to take this water out of the ocean for the salt, and they got beaten by their soldiers. And wait, we can't beat people for taking that. And all within 3 years, the English left India. 3 years, the whole English country left India. And they said, oh, take your salt. That was done by a K person. Nobody got shot. There were no protests. There were no, people just refused to be beaten down by their own people. And say,
there seem to be so many people with K, females with K is the
K
first
is
letter.
we need our rebels who say, look at this political scene or this whatever, or eating habits. Be the rebel. And if many of us have, like my friend down in Beijing, have a dream that whoever could dream it would come true, whoever imagined, he practices. And also, as I showed you the picture of the ampersand, I showed you the hexad, and we also do hexads because geometry, the sacred geometry dances with the letters of the alphabet. I won't get into that at all.
We could do that in another one, but do you do numbers or just the letters?
I do the numbers, but I don't get involved in them because each letter in the Roman alphabet, like the XL, it's 40. We do letters as numbers. X,
okay.
And the X is, the inner voice of the X is, I process all my memories in my heart. In other words, there's no judgment. It's like it's 4 V's joined in the center, joined in the heart. What happened in the past, what's happening in the future, below relationships and thinking patterns.
Yeah, it's 4 V's, yeah.
Yeah, they have 4 V's joined in the heart, just touch them. And it, but every letter is a spiritual aspect of who we are. Maybe we've been hiding it all these years. Maybe we pretend people don't like us. Change that. Pretend everybody really loves you and respects you. And I had to do with the class of kids once who were troublemakers. And it took about a week and a half. And all of a sudden, the troublemakers are hugging, Wow. It isn't magic. It's how the brain works. And if anybody chooses to read that book, The Hand, by Dr. Frank Wilson, you'll find out it's the subconscious. When anything happens, even in this show today, we interpret how we see that. And everybody interprets things differently. And that interpretation comes from our subconscious mind. When we change the way we write, that is what affected. And it takes 40 days for the neurological patterns in the brain to shift, and they shift. And all of a sudden, oh, everybody really cares about me a lot. It shifts the patterns, and it's not magical. You could call it mystical if you care to, but it's effective. And I have played with every one of these letters for years, and I've changed some of them. Like the W for a while, I had pointed at the bottom. No, this comes from the heart, not the mind. The teacher is one whose example is what people follow. So anyway, I learned along my way too. And learning is, life is one big lesson, one big curriculum. And when we're in a situation that we just, God, I've never done this before, it's as though that person is a gift to you, because they are giving you the opportunity to work through your karma. And one of my favorite writers is Dr. David Hawkins. We called him Doc. He said, the universe registers every thought we've ever had, everything we've ever done, and every way we've treated anybody. Until we experience the negative, then we can't clean up our karma. That's what karma is all about. Clean it up by doing what you've done to somebody else back. And if it's been all spiritual, guess what? It also affects your attitude. So, but he said, the universe forgets nothing. And when I read that, I thought, whoa. So it's a matter of being in a situation you think you would never be in. Yes, you have. You're just cleaning it up by going through it and just honoring the spirit you are and saying, I will never do that again. Apologies.
Well, I guess it's been an hour. That was fast.
Has it really been? Oh my gosh.
So you have a book with anything, or why don't you give your website, and then do you have any books with all of the alphabet that you've done?
Well, the one book I have that's still a bestseller came out in 2002. It's called Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life.
Oh, okay.
Now, and it's very exact. It's very scientific, but it's also very spiritual. And the first book I ever dared to write was after I was not afraid to speak anymore. It's called Change Your Handwriting, Change Your Life. And that was a very immature, and then people have taken that title and used it for their own work. Well, fine. But mine is Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life, and it will, and it has. And I mean, dramatic changes I've had from people reading that and taking on the writing changes. And it's just beautiful. It's
and beautiful. What's your website?
Just Vimala, you can go IIHS.com. International Institute of Handwriting Studies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it's and also if people go there, go to the FAQ page, because it gives a lot of information. Because people think, oh, I analyze handwriting. No, I don't. The graphologist looks at your handwriting and they don't know the letters. They just take all the spaces and they can tell you what's going on in your life. I don't do that. I look at your handwriting and say, what is it you want to change in your life? And I give you the letters to change. So, but I don't do clients anymore, but it's so much fun to teach. And thank you, Carol. So Donna Lee is the one who told you about me, right?
Right. So I'm so glad she did. This was really interesting. I know people are going to like it. You covered enough. I kept thinking of different, when you give a letter, I think, oh, that person will know. And then that one will.
But the lesson D, I have 3 people today in my life with D. The inner voice of the letter D is, the cause of any upset I have is never outside myself. In other words, I'm upset because of a judgment. That person did this or did that. That's a judgment. The cause of any upset I have is never outside myself. It wasn't that person. My evaluation. When people start living that D, wow, that person's being the only one they can be. My judgment came only from my mind. Anyway, the alphabet is a spiritual teaching, and I love it. And it's just write your letters. You're the initial of your first name first, and my alphabet's out there in my book. So thank you, Carol, for having me. I'm just so surprised when I got your invitation. This is lovely, because I love speaking about the letters.
Okay, so thank you. This was really informative. Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless you, my.